Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, I'm your host, Scott Carson, and I am honored today to have a couple amazing ladies join us that we go way back. All right, way back. Don't we? And so we're really excited to have these two amazing women who are doing some amazing things. They have transitioned from the real estate game to the note game to more so being very specific. And these two ladies are now really, I call them experts in the field of self-storage. Now, we get bombarded with requests. Oh, do you have any apartment notes? I'm like, no, I don't have any apartment notes. I wish I did. If I did, I'd buy them myself. Same thing with self-storage. But it's really great on the cash flow aspect of what you two women are doing out there to kick butt. There you go. The two of the original cash flow divas, Alia Ott and Terri Garner, join us from California. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon, Scott. This is great.
It's good to have you there. It's been too long. We got to hang out a little bit more. But why don't you take a second, introduce yourselves, and we'll go from there. And we'll just go alphabetical. So, Alia, why don't you start off first and tell us who you are and why they need to pay attention to you.
My name is Alia Ott-Carter, and Terri and I have been in business together for now, since about 2009, 2010. And we've had a journey, just like probably many of you have had, whether you got started in single family flips or rentals and transitioned into notes. So we have experience with all of that. We met Scott a number of years ago when we were focused on our lending business and then saw another alternative to lending, which was buying non-performing note portfolios. Shortly after that, we transitioned into buy and holds of self-storage properties. And we got into that business through lending on a transaction and becoming an equity partner and full-fledged business partner in that. And we've gone on now to purchase 13 self-storage properties.
Wow, that's awesome. Terri, tell them a little about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Terri Garner, and I have been doing real estate for, back in the 2000s, the early 2000s. And kind of like Alia said, we've been doing a lot of different things. I started out doing fix and flips and then doing single family rentals, rehabbing those and then renting them out. And then Alia and I met, we started doing private lending, and then we met with Scott years ago and worked with him. I think we were part of your first mastermind group way back.
Yes. I call it the Davenport dozen.
Yeah, that was us hanging out in a house out in Florida, getting stuff done. And we even had a fund with notes and did that for several years, and then have worked our way into the niche that we're currently in, which is, Alia mentioned, the self-storage.
Right. Now, one of the great things, those that have been transition, because I think apartments are the hot, everybody's always interested about apartments and doors and stuff like that. Terri, why don't you share a little bit about how valuable and what attracts you guys to the self-storage side? And then Alia, I got a question for you after that as well.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. We love storage because one of the key differences of other commercial assets, whether it's apartment complexes or mobile home parks, is that nobody is living in them. And so the fair housing laws don't apply. So if somebody stops paying you, it's a little different state by state because each state has its own law, but it's literally only like 2 to 5 days, depending on the state. And you just put a lock on their unit and you can lock them out of their gate even. So you don't have to go through eviction. You don't have to go through foreclosure. You don't have these long lead times to get back to your money. You lock them out. There is a little bit of a process. You have to do some notification, but you can get to an auction pretty quickly where if they don't bring you current in the amount that they owe you, you can sell off their stuff and get that unit cleaned out and get it rented again. So it's very simple business. The other thing we like about it is you don't have toilets to deal with. You don't, you don't have things breaking on you by people living in that you have to go and fix up. And when the tenants move out, you literally just broom sweep it. it's just, 4 concrete walls and a roll-up door. You don't have to do paint. You don't have to do carpet. You don't have to do any of that. So it's a very simplified business and a simplified model, and we love it for that reason.
That's awesome. Now, Alia, you guys were mentioning 4,200 doors you were figuring out, and that's over, what, a dozen, baker's dozen of properties across the country. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes. We have 13 properties. 2 of the properties are in the same community run by the same manager. So yeah, about a dozen or so properties.
And without giving away any secrets, because I don't want you to give away any secrets there, but none of those are in California, though, where you guys call home, right?
None of those are in California. If you are proficient in the commercial real estate industry, everything is often based on cap rates. And that's a calculation of what you're essentially paying for your cash flow. So the lower the cap rate, the more expensive the property is for the cash that comes in every month. And California, New York, those have some of the lowest cap rates in the entire nation. So we look towards the middle of the country, Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, some of the southern states, as well as a couple up in the north, and they cash flow much better for the price that you're paying for the property. So we're long-term hold buyers of these self-storage properties, and so that becomes a key factor. If we were looking to possibly flip a property, get the revenue up and then resell it right away, then we might look towards other marketplaces. But we just really look at the numbers on everything, and if it makes sense, then we buy it.
Right. That's awesome. Now, I'm sure one of the big things that you ladies look at is kind of surrounding properties to see what kind of their occupancy rates are. If the community's at 65%, that's about as high as you can get it up to, right? Figure an average.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know because I've bought some self-storage notes and we've got them fixed up and sold them off. The expense ratios on self-storage is so much less because you have so much less manpower, right, Terri?
Yeah, exactly. So our maintenance costs are really very low. Again, we have one property manager that can handle up to 500 units. If you start to get higher than that, then you might want to think about adding another property manager. We do have a part-time person as well that covers weekends so that we can run 7 days a week. But really the manpower, again, it's a simple business, right? And there's nobody actually living there. So it is a very simple business. Right.
Now, Alia, how are you guys, without any secrets, finding these deals? Are you just dealing direct from banks and notes, private sellers? What's kind of a mix? Has it been a mixed bag? What's kind of your lead source?
It's been a little bit of a mixed bag, but primarily our source as of late has been just being fed by brokers. And there's real estate brokers in the commercial arena that specialize just in self-storage. And so those have been really key relationships to build. Over time, we'll go to a couple of the national conferences every year, and there will be at least a dozen different brokerage firms showing up with, 30, 40 properties available for sale. And so making relationships, like anything else in the whole real estate business, is key.
Right. Now, Terri, with the different things, is there an underlying kind of distressed nature to those assets that you're seeing? Is it people just lack of management skills, or they just don't know the market? What do you see?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, that's specifically what we look for. We do often get deals across our desk where they're already at 93% occupancy, and there's not a whole lot you can do with that. And one, you never want it to be up to 100% occupancy, because that means you aren't charging enough for your rents. But 93%, there's not a lot of value we can add. So we like to buy them when they're in the 50 to 60% occupancy range, where we see some key issues, whether it's on the management side or many times it's with the owner, the prior owner, that they were just stifling the manager that was there. And then we have cash flow coming in on day one when we first buy it from that 50 to 60% occupancy, but we still have room to add value to the property. So we can get the occupancy up, that raises the value of the overall property. Then we could go out and refinance, pay off our initial investors, and hold the property in perpetuity.
Now, speaking of investors, that was my next question. We'll toss this to Alia there. So, Alia, and I love it. You guys, ladies are in two different locations, which is great. So it's awesome trying You know, I love seeing your guys' success. It's always a great thing to see women out there doing amazing things, and then also share that, because we'll get to that a little bit about how you also teach these different workshops at different times too. But Alia, how are you financing these things? Are you using private capital? Are you doing subject to financing? Are you adjusting, or a variety of the things? How are you financing?
It's a combination. So when we initially purchase a property, the first thing that we attempt to do is get seller financing. And oftentimes the seller will offer seller financing at market rate. So that's great when we can get that, because then you don't have to deal with lag times of banks. So we've had deals that have taken 6 to 12, even 18 months to close when you get a bank involved. But the bank financing is usually very affordable as well. They're not so concerned about the occupancy rates as they are just overall looking at the purchase price and the cash flow that's covering their expenses. So we will typically get anywhere between 65 and 80% of the purchase price covered by either the bank or the seller. And then we'll work with our investors to raise additional capital to close out the purchase price and closing expenses. We did that initially through our lending program at Investors in Action, and then we have since transitioned on to creating a syndicated fund, which allows us to legally pool investors together and have compliance with the SEC. So that's what we use to purchase now. Awesome.
And who are you? Is it Jillian Sadati is your attorney for that?
Yeah.
So we've had Jillian on before. Jillian's just awesome.
Yeah.
Another one of the 9 cash flow divas.
That's right. The OG.
The OG and the OC. That's right. Good stuff. Now let's talk about something here. How long have you been in self-storage? What, for 5-6 years now? Do you remember when you bought your first one?
I think it was 2013.
5 years.
Okay, 5 years.
Yeah, we started about 2013.
Okay, so let's do something here. What did you do before you got into real estate? Terri, why don't you share first? Alia will go next there, because I want people to see that you can make transitions. You can do different things if you got bigger goals. So what did you do before you got into the real estate side, Terri?
Yeah, so I have a very corporate background. I was a mechanical engineer and did that for 7 years. And then I got an MBA, and I was at Verizon Wireless and middle management there for 11 years. And then I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take corporate America. I had to get out, and I took a leave of absence and started doing real estate at home. I just wanted to make sure I liked working from home and kind of got my feet under me before I cut that cord. And about a year later that I just finally said, okay, that's it. I'm going for it and going full blast. And I think as far as the transition, you don't need any kind of fancy education. You can take whatever background you have and take those skill sets and just transfer them. So, whatever you're good at, I was used to working with a lot of numbers and things like that. So in our business with Alia and I, that's what I tend to do. I deal with the spreadsheets and all of that. Not that Alia isn't proficient in that, she is, but that's just kind of where I gravitate towards. So I took those same skill sets and just apply them to what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm. Alia, about yourself, why don't you share with our Note Nation your kind of background before you got into the real estate side?
Right. Well, prior to jumping ship, I was working at a nonprofit organization called Network for Good. And that was an organization that helped thousands of other charities raise money online, not capital, but donations online. And very proud to say I had a goal. I wanted to hit $500 million raised online. So we hit the 500 million mark just about a month before I left my job there. It was great. In fact, I was investing while I was working at the nonprofit organization, but I knew that I wanted to be a generous philanthropist. I didn't want to be an employee of a nonprofit for the rest of my life. And so I knew that there had to be another better way. And I, in my gut, even since I was a kid or a teenager, I knew that real estate was the game that I wanted to leverage to create the lifestyle that I truly desired. So now I get to be more of a philanthropist and volunteer my time because we have cash flowing properties.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing, and I remember doing a lot of those. You doing a lot of those nonprofits and capital raising, and how big a passion is for both of you actually with what you're doing. I happen to remember dressing up in some Sesame Street uniforms or Christmas?
Oh yeah. Santa Claus. You were Santa Claus, remember?
And Christopher was the Cookie Monster. That was hilarious.
That's right.
As you guys have grown, your goals have changed over time. You've pivoted. You've used some of the different things you've learned at different aspects and pivoted. How important has your building a marketing presence or developing marketing skills helped you in your pivots? Alia, you want to start first with that? We'll go to Terri.
Sure, I'll start. Definitely creating a presence for yourself online. I've found that video works really well as far as being out there on YouTube. I get random calls once in a while from people that said, hey, I've been watching you on YouTube. I want to connect. Tell me more about the education that you offer. And we're really not actively marketing our education so much right now. It's there, and we plan to do an annual workshop every year. But we're really focused on our assets at the moment. But I do have to say, it is an important skill, and this was something I taught the nonprofits how to do when I was teaching them to raise money online, is you have to get online. You have to build your lists. I know you're going to tease me about that. But you have to send the emails. You have to. There's an inside joke here that people on here don't know about, but Scott.
We'll get to it in a second.
I'll let you tell that. But sending the emails, doing your videos, all of that is really key to making sure that people know who you are. And it's creating what I refer to as surround sound. People don't just buy with you or lend or invest with you the first time that they see you unless maybe you are positioned by an authority figure. But most of the time, people have to see you. They have to connect with you multiple times. And a way to do that is leveraging social media, videos, the internet, email campaigns, so that people hear from you over and over and over again.
Terri, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Alia said it very well. I think just to also complement that, in addition to all of the online stuff and the email marketing we do, we try to get out as much as we can to speak at our local real estate investment club meetings. And one, not only to make connections, but two, if you have an opportunity to speak and get up in front of people, then you get your message out there. We attract a lot of people to us that way as well. So it's really, as Alia said, it's a perfect word, that surround sound. It's the online combined with the in-person, the networking, the meeting people, and really just getting out there.
So the inside joke that we talk about is we're doing your guys one-on-one when I was doing one-on-one coaching stuff back then. And so we're bringing them together. These two ladies working on stuff. I think we took your LinkedIn list, your databases, we uploaded to MailChimp. And you guys you're a little bit more polished than me, which is fine coming from your background. And they're like, we got to double check everything. We got to edit things. We got to double check everything for like 3 days. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I say?
Send the freaking email. Just send.
Send the damn email.
Press the button.
Press the
button.
We're like, no, we got to check it.
And then what happened?
Oh, within probably 30 seconds of hitting send, my phone started to ring.
But that's the thing. You had people that were interested. You guys built rapport with your audience. You already had a really good presence out there just from your past background. And people had already trusted you. People knew who you were, from the different things. And that's the thing. Yeah, your phone started blowing up with people calling you. Oh, hey, tell us more. Tell us more about what you're doing, right?
Right, exactly.
So I need to get a teacher to send the damn email.
We like the easy button at Staples.
You know what? I have one here for you.
Nice.
Well, and you know what? I'll piggyback off that. That just speaks to the power of just get out there and do it. Just don't overthink it. Don't try to analyze things to death. Just get out there and do it. And once you get started, of course, things are going to happen. There might be mistakes, but you figure it out. You correct them. You figure you don't do that again the next time. You just keep moving forward. Failing forward is a term I've heard in seminars from years past. But just get out there and get moving, because if you do nothing, then nothing happens.
Oh, it's so cute. Do nothing, nothing happens. I'm going to use it as a quote there for you. Do you see that? I mean, I see it all the time. I'm sure you guys see that about people who play inner mind games with themselves. They just don't have the confidence to do it. And it's 10 times more difficult in their head than it is in real life, Alia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to raising capital, asking other people for money. I saw this with the nonprofits, and I saw it even worse with raising money for your deals. People get in their heads and they're too afraid to ask for money, or they have to overanalyze the deal and they never put in an offer. When Terri and I met, we went through something called the 60-day challenge, and every week, every day, we had to submit offers, lots and lots of offers on wholesale deals that we intended to either keep and rehab or sell the contract to another buyer. And nothing would happen if you didn't put an offer in. So just like notes, just like anything else, self-storage, commercial properties, single family, you have to put in the offers and you have to ask for the money. And I want to say one thing about raising capital that's really key to get into your mindset is you're not asking for money. You're giving somebody an opportunity to earn money on their money, making their lazy dollars go to work for them and expand and multiply. It's not that you're just taking someone's money. If you feel like you're taking someone's money, then you're probably not going to do the right thing with it. If you're having somebody invest with you and giving them a nice rate of return, that's a gift to the investor. And people are grateful for those opportunities.
I couldn't say it any better. My heart is warm over here hearing you say those words, because it's like, I love it when you're around people that understand the game. Everybody gets it, and they understand there's so many opportunities out there. You couldn't say any better. If you had a best friend who is the founder of Google, you would hope that they would tell you about Google so you can invest within the early stages, right?
Absolutely.
Versus, in this case, what is it? Bitcoin. Everybody's like said about Bitcoin. Now your friends that tell you about Bitcoin, you don't want them to talk to you because it's crashed. But Terri, why don't we talk a little about let's kind of pivot back here to the self-storage market. Why don't we talk about what do you see that market going? I'm sure you ladies are constantly looking at it because you're in a variety of different markets. But where do you see it? What has made that such a hot market over the last few years?
Well, the nice thing about storage, and we can even go back and look historically to the economic downturn, is that people have a lot of stuff. And even when they were getting foreclosed on and having to move out of their house, they would put their stuff into storage as they were downsizing to, say, a smaller place or moving into an apartment. So during that economic time, there was a little dip, but not much, not like the other asset classes that you see. So historically, it's always done very well. Now, looking forward, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, well, millennials are up and coming. They tend not to want to have a lot of stuff. Do you see that as a problem? But really, millennials also like to travel. And we go after the student days, for example. Like right now, we're starting to get towards the end of the school year, so we will target universities because they will put their stuff in storage. So as they are mobile and they vacate their properties, they will put their stuff into storage. So, we talk about this a lot at some of our industry conferences that we go to out in Vegas. We go a couple times a year. And it's a big discussion there. And really, we see the trends just keep going and still being strong.
I'll add to that as well. We just got a report in yesterday from one of the major players who handles brokerage in the self-storage arena. And one of the things that they are talking about is kind of the future. Where's the future of self-storage? And I want to give an honest and maybe not so rosy picture of the outlook. We've currently, in the last 2 to 3 years, have been paying more as an industry for properties in the commercial space, whether it be apartment complexes or self-storage. And I talked a little bit earlier about the cap rates, the cost of buying your cash flow, essentially. When interest rates start to rise, it's not always simultaneous, but I believe in this case it probably will be. As the interest rates start to rise, the cost of funds to get a bank loan or get a private loan is going to increase. And so your cost of holding that property through debt is also going to increase. And that's going to affect the overall market in terms of how much people are willing to pay for those storage properties. In 2016, there was a huge spike in REITs, which is real estate investment trusts, going out and purchasing bulk portfolios. And that has started to cool off a little bit. So just to share with people some honest information, I would just be very cautious about the purchase price and have a longer term strategy. If you're looking for cash flow, then it won't matter as much how much you pay for that property. But if your goal is to flip the property, then I would be a little bit more cautious about what you're paying and what you think your returns are going to be on the disposition side.
I couldn't agree more with that. I've talked with a lot of apartment investors too, that they're buying all these apartments up to add value, to take it from a class C to a class B and regentrify the neighborhood or regentrify the property to then in 3 years get refinanced out and cash themselves out. And there's no guarantee that finance is going to be there in 3 years. I mean, I think we can agree to that, right, ladies? Things
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And that goes across any asset class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
That's not just storage, but anywhere.
Sure. But the fact is that you're working out details with owner financing and other creative financing tactics make it a lot easier for you, because if you got a loan in place that's got low interest rate, it boosts your cap rate because your cash flows, you're making your profits in the cash flow and the regentrification of the property, right?
Right.
Have you ladies given any thought or looked into any of this stuff about the construction? Because I think self-storage has one of the lowest construction costs to build a new property, though, too, right?
It certainly does. We've looked at construction. We've had conversations about it. The thing with construction is twofold. One, you have your holding costs, and you have land, and you have your materials, and you have labor, but there's no cash flow coming in to support that. We like the ease of going into an existing property, specifically ones that have internet marketing. There's people out there that still own these properties and are not marketing online whatsoever. And so we're looking to cure a problem rather than starting ground up construction. That's just not a skill set that applies to us at this moment in time. Maybe down the road we would acquire a property that has extra land and build on that. We've discussed doing that with a couple of our properties. But there is definitely a risk in the construction process, because you're going to pay more for your initial cash that you get, whether that's getting 100% from investors and having to pay them a whole lot more than you would a bank. Or it might be that you have interim financing at a higher interest rate. So however you're choosing to finance that, you have to be really careful. Then you don't know how long it's going to take you to fill up that property and really get it to the point where your cash flow exceeds your debt expenses. So that's one thing I would caution people on. But if you're a proficient developer, it's certainly a huge opportunity if you can find the right piece of land in the right area. One of the key factors with self-storage is knowing a 5-mile radius market and looking at your competition and seeing how well your competition is doing within that 5-mile radius, because that's where about 80% of your tenants are going to come from. You can't just look at a major metro market and say, well, I think LA or Dallas is great. You really have to go down to the individual neighborhood and understand that micro market.
Mm-hmm. Good night. Terri, you want to add?
Yeah, another thing, now we haven't done this specifically ourselves, but another thing that other investors are doing is repurposing, say, an old warehouse or an old retail area and turning that into storage. And that way you've already, you don't have to go through permitting because it's already existing and it's already there. You still have to worry about the lease up and getting to your cash flow coming in. But it is a little bit simpler. We see a lot of that going on in the industry.
Yeah, I've seen some of that happen with the bigger box stores or the Walmarts that have gone out.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to be aware too, if we buy a property, we look for, is there vacant land nearby? Are there old empty warehouses nearby that somebody could come in, turn that into storage and be our competition? So we always look at that as well within this, that 5-mile radius.
Mm-hmm. I was going to add to that. One of the creative things that some people are doing is there's pods. So there's these easy to install. Some of them are portable. Some of them are permanent, not like fully permanent, but you bring them in there and they're not, the intention isn't to take them out and put them on somebody's front yard. But then you have pods as well. So a lot of people have heard of pods. U-Haul has something similar to pods where it's a mobile unit that as a service, a truck will come, take it to your driveway, you fill it up, and then they haul it off to wherever it needs to go. So that's another convenient way of being involved in storage. There's some new innovative ways that people are leveraging storage and specifically banking on convenience, which millennials like in some of the bigger cities. Things like valet service, where they even store and they'll stack the storage units one on top of another in a warehouse. And the only way to get to it is through, a forklift, an employee going in there, taking that unit out and allowing you to have that unit then brought back to your home.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did when I sold my house, and went on my 3-year road trip, was basically put what was left over in the house after my divorce in a pod and stored it for basically 3 years. And then when I finally settled back in a spot, they showed up and dropped it all off. So yeah, it's a pretty affordable way to do things and stuff like that. But it's also, when you're leveraging up instead of just across, it allows you to really maximize your square footage, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Where do you see the market in the next 12, 24 months? Do you see a downturn across the board with real estate? I like to ask this fuzzy ball of people.
Yeah, let me get the crystal ball out.
Exactly. Terri, where do you think things are going here? Is it going to be a downturn, property values dropping? Are we going to see a repeat of 2008, 2009, 2010 again? Or what are you thinking?
Yeah, it is hard to know where we're going. So far, no, we don't see it slowing down. In fact, the storage as an industry has been underserved for the demand. So you have seen in recent years a lot of building going on and new players coming in. And there are a couple markets that are saturated. Sacramento is one of them. Dallas is another. But in general, overall, there's still an underserved population and not enough storage units to actually accommodate the demand. So for our specific industry, we still feel very confident. And again, as I was saying, the last economic downturn, even if there is a downturn, we feel like we'll be able to survive that. And I think one of the keys is, as long as your debt, your debt to income ratio, as long as you don't have a whole lot of debt on the property, even if it does go down a little bit, you can still survive that. And for us, because we're buying them at 50% occupancy and then building them up, if they start to drop a little bit, we can still cover it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we like with our business model now. It might be different for those that build from the ground up. But
sure. Yeah. Alia, what about yourself? What are you thinking?
My crystal ball says that there's a little bit of softening in the market, not a tremendous amount. Every real estate market is a cycle, and there's some level of predictability to that cycle. We hit a huge downturn in 2008, as everyone knows, and normally the cycle is between 7 to 10 years. So we are at essentially that 10-year mark, and we're still going pretty strong. There's some factors like some of the tax reform that has helped the real estate industry a little bit. I don't think it's going to give it a huge bump. On the opposite side of that, of course, is rising interest rates. So one kind of counterbalances the other. I still see a strong demand for self-storage, for apartment complexes. But as I mentioned earlier, it's really coming down to the micro markets and what people are willing to spend on the properties. And as long as you're looking at the long-term buy and hold strategy, your property cash flows, and you have some value add opportunities, I wouldn't hesitate to buy a property even in this hot market.
Right. Especially if you're buying it at 50% of occupancy and
Exactly.
You've got a lot of upgrade with that. You've got a little pot of gold there. You just got to undust and make it work, right? Put
exactly.
your
the magic fairy dust.
The diva dust. Ooh, there you go. The diva dust. That's another hashtag, diva dust, we're going to use on that one. Are you guys buying on your properties? Are they in major markets, or are they around major markets? Like, you mentioned some stuff in Texas. Are they like in Dallas or Houston? Or they're in like secondary communities?
I would even go tertiary. Go ahead, Terri.
They're in secondary and tertiary markets. So like in Texas, we have Abilene, Killeen, Harlingen, which is down near Brownsville at the south. We just bought in Edinburgh, which is near that area as well. We're just outside of Shreveport, Louisiana. So there really are secondary and tertiary markets. The reason why is because a lot of the big public companies like Selfstorage, public storage, Extra Space, they like to go in the primary markets. They have a little bit different business model. They're looking for they buy at higher occupancy, and they just want kind of steady cash flow for their investors that they have, and for they're traded on the stock exchange, so for their stockholders. So we stay out of those because it's really, we don't have the same business model that they have. So our business model works better where we can find like mom and pop type operations, and those tend to be a little bit more in the secondary and the tertiary market.
That's awesome, because I can see that they don't have the budget, they don't have the knowledge to reach out to things.
Versus right. And that's where there was a big surge in the storage industry in the 70s and 80s. So you got a lot of these mom and pops opening, and they manage it themselves. They're the ones sitting behind the desk, and they're still advertising in the yellow pages. And we have actually found properties, as Alia was mentioning, where they have no online presence, and they're spending all this money to advertise in the yellow pages and wondering why their occupancy is dipping. And that's such an easy problem to correct. You do away with the yellow pages and just put up a website. It's really not rocket science, and it's very simple to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, Alia, are you guys kind of taking your individual properties and rebranding it, or leaving it kind of the same known brand in it, or in your guys handling marketing, or you're outsourcing to a third party marketing to help with these assets?
Yeah, so a couple of questions there. First, I'll answer the marketing question. We are outsourcing our SEO. We have websites that are configured by a company who specializes in 3 markets. I know one of them is senior housing, the other one's self-storage, and I forget what the third one is. Apartments, yeah. So they specialize in doing websites and SEO marketing, Google ads, etc., for those 3 industries, and that company is called G5. The other question was, sorry.
Are you put them under rebranding them into
rebranding? No, we are keeping the same name of the company. We're not intending to be a well-known brand, because in order to do that, really, you have to concentrate in one market, and because we are scattered a little bit throughout the country, a property in Killeen, Texas isn't going to have the same memory as somebody who jumps over to Mobile, Alabama. So there isn't that strong of a need. I think it's nice when you have strong branding, strong colors, really nice logo and everything. But at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily serve our tenant base. We're looking for people who just want something simple, something affordable. So people compete on price, people compete on offerings, like all the amenities that you have to offer. And oftentimes we start out with a price, and then we continue to improve the property. We were talking earlier about people who take a C-class building and make it a B-class building and regentrify a neighborhood. That's what we attempt to do to our properties as well, if needed. If it's really only if it's needed, but at the end of the day, you look at the numbers and you make decisions based on your cash flow revenue model.
Mm-hmm. I've got a question from Laura Blunk online here. She asks, do you care if the facility is a multi-story climate-controlled property, or is it all about the numbers?
It's all about the numbers. So as far as climate controlled, we don't seek them out and we don't avoid them. If they have them, great, we'll use them. You can usually get about $10 to $20 more depending on the size of it for a climate controlled unit. But if they don't have them, that's fine too. we find that the ones that are desired most by the tenants are the ones that you can drive up to and park your car right in front of and get out and open the door. And those tend not to be climate controlled. The climate controls are usually interior to a building. Mm-hmm. So those roll-up ones that are out kind of off in the distance are the ones that people like.
Mm-hmm. I'm willing to bet, Alia, that your Killeen property stays pretty full since it's near Fort Hood, huh? And
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the niche markets that we serve really well is the military. We have several properties located near a military base, and it's really nice to have a retired Air Force captain as your business partner who knows how to, say the right things and get connected to the relocation department of these military facilities.
Mm-hmm. And I bet if the tenants don't pay, you just got to reach out to their CO and help.
Exactly. That's one of the beautiful things. Now we have to be really careful that we're not auctioning off any military units. But if you call their commanding officer, they get on them right away about that missing payment. So that's the benefit of the military.
Good stuff. Terri, you being in Verizon Wireless, I actually helped open a Verizon Wireless branch in Killeen back years ago, and it was fast. It was feast or famine. It was really great when everybody moved in town. When everybody moved out, you had a lot of cancellations on your submissions back in the day. So that's funny. What are the guys that are watching? What are the questions you have here for Terri and Alia? They are just a wealth of information out here. A couple of things that I used to do back in the day is I used to join like different state memberships, mm-hmm. Self-storage memberships, and where I would get the email list and drop an email out once a month to those members and say, "Hey, anybody looking to get rid of their self-storage? Anybody having problems?" And we'll often find some deals. On your 13 properties you've got here, are you hiring one full-time and one part-timer, or have you toyed around with it? I've heard that there's the self-storage ATM. Are you seeing any of that working?
We typically hire a full-time manager who will work like a Monday through Friday shift, and then we'll hire a second manager to get the weekends. That's one of the, I'll say, value adds that we include is making sure that we have 6 or 7 day a week coverage. A lot of these mom and pops go Monday through Friday, and they're missing everybody who wants to move on the weekend. Again, part of the reason for the lower occupancy. So that's definitely one benefit there.
Yeah, sorry. As far as you were asking about the kiosks, that is a trend that we've seen. We personally haven't used those. They're pretty expensive. Now, the other reason that we don't use them, that we actually like having a body there on site, it also helps with security. Mm. So it's just one more deterrent from somebody coming and doing something they should be doing while they're there. Mm. So we haven't adjusted that yet. We also really try to use our property managers to the fullest. So we'll have them while, they're many times just sitting there all day, right? And maybe there might be a couple of people walking in. But we will have them actively go out into the community and start marketing our storage facility to the community, and especially things like apartment complexes nearby. We'll give referral fees to an apartment complex manager that refers people to our storage business. So we have our property managers go out and start soliciting not only apartment complex or mobile home parks in the area, doctors' offices, real estate companies, all of that. We'll have them target that. So we really like to use our personnel to the fullest. You can't do that with a kiosk.
Yeah, exactly. That's my noise making here.
Okay, I was looking for my phone. I'm like,
I was just saying.
I thought I picked up you.
I meant to hit because that's a great nugget there that you shared about marketing out to professionals in the area and stuff like that. They'll going up and meeting people face to face and handing out some flyers. While it's not like the SEO, it's better than just having a sign out there because you meet a lot of people in the surrounding community that can use your services. That's
absolutely.
Very, very smart. That's a wave of wealth there, knocking stuff out there for you. What has been your biggest challenge with the self-storage industry?
I think for any industry that deals with having property managers and tenants, is just making sure you have the right property manager in place, because that person really is the life force for your company and can make or break you. So overall, we've had some great property managers. Some we acquired with the property, some we had to replace. And oftentimes you just really have to go in and assess, why is the low occupancy? Is it marketing, or is it the previous owner, or is it the manager that's currently there? And so you have to discern what that might be, and make sure that they're properly trained and supported in their day-to-day job, and just kind of keeping an eye on them. So when you're remotely managing real estate, your property manager is key. The other thing in the real estate, in the self-storage industry in particular, is you have to be very careful when you're auctioning other people's items off, that you're doing that properly. And we have somebody who now oversees that entire process for every property, making sure that we're following all the local laws, specifically notification to the tenant, because it could have been somebody passed away, somebody's on deployment, or maybe they just changed their billing information and now their credit card's not being properly charged and they don't know, they maybe moved somewhere. So you have to be really careful when you're auctioning stuff off.
Oh, Terri, are you ever dealing with so is the stuff on TV, Storage Wars, like it is in real life?
We've actually had storage wars. At the beginning, especially, we would do live auctions. When you first buy a property, you tend to have a lot of delinquencies from the past owner if they were paying attention to it. So then when we have a lot of units, it's great to have a live auction, and they're really fun to go to. It's a lot of fun to see them. Now we tend to shift more. We do auctioning online. We have a company called Storage Treasures, where you post, you take pictures and you put them online, and then people bid online. So in that case, you don't have to have a whole bunch of units that are needed to be auctioned. You can just deal with the ones and the twos, because you don't have to pay to hire an auctioneer and all of that. Online makes it very simple, efficient, and you can get it done a lot faster. But yes, storage wars, when we have them, they're really fun. They're a blast.
Well, that's a smart way of doing business, of making it virtually, because you get a lot more buyers versus just local to do it as well. Exactly. That's really cool. I did not know that. Yeah. That's phenomenal. What are your goals? Where do you guys see yourself in the next 12 or 16 months? And I'll start first with you, Alia. Have you guys set? Because I know you guys are constantly goal oriented. You're constantly working at numbers, and you're reviewing what you want, and you're goal oriented. What are your goals for the next 5 years?
Right. So as far as our storage properties are concerned, our goal is really to refinance the properties that we currently have and getting the cash flow maximized on every single one of our properties. And we've really taken a heavy emphasis on that this quarter in particular, as we see the interest rates rising. And we want to just make sure that we're able to fulfill on our business plan, which is to, first bring the investors in, get the property values up, refinance the properties out, cash out everybody that should be cashed out, and then just long-term cash flow. And really, we got into this with the emphasis of how do we want to retire as quickly as possible? And this asset class fell in our laps just when we were lending. And so that's really our goal, is to get these cash flowing as much as we can.
Cool. Terri, about yourself?
Yeah, I would echo everything Alia just said. And I think really in the near term, when we refinance the properties, I'll just add that we also want to take care of our investors, because we do have a syndicated fund, and we want to make sure everybody is happy and healthy, and we make them whole and do what we say we're going to do. And so that fund has maybe another 5 years to it by the time we work through our inventory and get everybody turned around. So really, we have a huge focus not just on the properties and getting them refinanced, but then taking care of the investors, communicating with them. We put out a quarterly newsletter, all of that, so they understand what we're doing, and we make sure we take care of them.
Good. Are you guys always in acquisition mode? Because I'm sure we'll see some people that, hey, I've got a self-storage or know somebody. You guys always looking for deals, or is there a way for them to submit those into you guys? If it makes it easier, we'll just be bombarded.
I'd love to be bombarded with great deals.
Yeah. We'll always look. I mean, I think with any asset class, you never rest fully back on your laurels, right? You're always out there looking for deals. We're not as much in acquisition mode as we were a few years back when we were just acquiring the properties. But we actually last year we closed on our 12th property. We're like, 12's a good number. Let's just stop right there. And then we had another great deal that we couldn't pass up. And so that took us another 4 months in escrow and closed on that here back in January. So, when the deals come up, if the numbers look right, you got to do them.
Awesome. And then I got a question here about, hey, you mentioned about a class you teach. Is it once a year, twice a year? Ali, you want to talk a little about that? What kind of goes into your classes or when those are scheduled for?
Yeah, we don't currently have it on the schedule yet, but we're probably looking at sometime this summer. We'd like to get through tax season before we start getting that planned and rolled out. That does take some time because you've got multiple LLCs to do that for. But our classes really go into how to buy, how to fund, and how to operate and manage a self-storage facility. We have online materials for that. We have a study kit, our self-storage success kit that can be found on our website at investorsinaction.com. And then, of course, once we get our live class, we'll post that there too.
Awesome. Now, Terri, I have a question for you. Do you have Tim working for you yet?
So Tim is my husband, and actually he just retired a year and a half ago. And so he's done. He's totally out of the corporate game. And it's funny is every now and then we'll be like, oh, come on, we need some help. And he'll be like, and he tends to do more house projects and stuff like that. So but he's around. He's down the hallway there. I'm sure.
Well, make sure you tell him make sure you tell him I said hello. The same thing to Andre as well, Alia. I was going to ask the same thing. You got him working for you yet?
No, he's busy launching his nonprofit and for-profit. So he's got his hands full. Coach Carter.
There you go. That's a good one. There you go. I like that. Yeah. Well, hey, I want to thank both of you ladies for taking time in your busy schedule to join us here. I know a lot of people are liking this on Facebook and other things. And if you're listening on iTunes and Stitcher and any of the online podcasts, I totally encourage you to go to weclosenotes.tv to check out the video replays of our podcast and see Alia, see Terri, because I love it. The fact is that they do a great job with investorsinaction.com, right? The website, right, ladies? And then you want to pay attention to these two ladies. Not only are they making a name for themselves in the last couple of years, but you'll see some even bigger things from them over the next few years if I know both of these ladies well. Alia, Terri, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully it's been helpful.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here, and congratulations on all your success. You two deserve it.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closure Show. Go out, make something happen. If you heard anything from what Alia and Terri said, is take your skills, what you learn, apply them to your dreams, apply them to working forward. And if you've got to make a pivot, make a pivot. But don't be afraid to send the damn email and take some action, everybody. We'll see you guys later at the top. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.